Hello guys, I am going to quote a few pages from Worlds in Collision, Immanuel Velikovsky. He's talking about the mankind and amnesia, and also how in the soul of man, I think it's called ontogenetic memory, we have within us all the memory of a catastrophe from the past, but we all have to, or we'll kind of have a kind of amnesia in order to forget the traumatic past that we as mankind experience in the catastrophe that happened. Like for myself, it's like around 15,000 years ago. For him, it's a bit earlier in time. And I quote from page 291, and I say the similarity of motif in the folklore of various people on the 5 continents and on the islands of the oceans posed a difficult problem for the ethnologists and anthropologists. The migration of ideas may follow the migrations of people, but how could an unusual motif of folklore reach isolated island where the aborigines do not have any means of crossing the sea? And why did not technical civilizations travel together with the spiritual? Peoples still living in the Stone Age possess the same, often strange motive as the cultured nations. The particular character of some of the contents of folklore makes it impossible to assume that it was only by mere chance that the same motifs were created in all corners of the world. The problem is so perplexing to the scientists that for lack of a better proposition, an explanation was offered according to which the motif of folklore are a pre-existing possessions in the soul of peoples. Peoples are born with these ideas just as animal is born with an urge to propagate its kind, to nurse its offspring, to build a lair or a nest, and to travel in herds or migrate in flocks to faraway countries. But it is not so simple to explain in these terms why, for instance, the Aborigines of America imagined a witch as a woman riding on a broom across the sky, exactly as the European people imagined her. The Mexican witch, like her European sisters, carried a broom on which she rode through the air and was associated with the stretched owl. Indeed, the queens of witches, Tlagotoitol, I don't know how I can pronounce that, is depicted as riding on a broom and as wearing the witch speaked hat. As with that witch on her broom, so also with hundreds of others odd fantasies and belief. That it is the folklore of the dragon, the folklore of the witch on the broomstick. It is kind of like explanation of a celestial event that happened in the sky in ancient times. Because one of the best examples is the dragon. There is no biological evidence that any dragon being existed back in the day, but in every culture, especially in the Chinese and Japanese culture, you have the culture of the depictions of dragons with long tails and like serpentine like, and it's more likely that those dragons were meteorites or comets that happened to pass through the air back in the ancient time and got imprinted in the memory of our ancestors and in our own entogenetic memory. Let's continue. I got another quote here in which he referred to Diogenes Laertius, which he was a philosopher from, I think it was like after Christ. But again, I quote from page 304, and it says, some of the classic authors knew that the earth had changed its position and had turned towards the south. Not all of them, however, were aware of the real cause of this perturbation. He's talking about the switching of the tilted of the axis of the earth, which is 23.5, and is symbolized by the jet, or where the word Jedi come from, because the Jedi were the people who protect the jet pillar in ancient Egypt, which was inclined 23.5 degrees. Diogenes Laertius repeated the teachings of Leucippus, and I quote, the earth was bent or inclined toward the south because the northern regions grew rigid and inflexible by the snowy and cold weather which ensued thereon. He's talking about the Ice Age. The same idea is found in Plutarch, who quoted the teachings of Democritus. The northern regions were ill-temperate, but the southern were well, whereby the latter, becoming fruitful, waxed greater, and by an overnight preponderated and inclined the whole that way. Empedocles, quoted by Plutarch, taught that the north was bent from its former position, whereupon the northern regions were elevated and the southern depressed. Anaxagoras thought that the pole received a turn and that the wall became inclined towards the south. It is again a very interesting subject. I highly recommend people to start reading or to buy the books of Emmanuel Velikovsky. He got few of them, and also he got a very important book which I want to buy, which is it is an essay comparing both of the teaching of Carl Sagan and Velikovsky. As you probably don't know, they were rivals back in the 70s or the 60s. I'm not quite sure, because their theories of the cosmos kind of differ quite a lot. A lot of people went on the side of Carl Sagan, but I think Velikovsky, and as I can prove in some of the new Thunderbolts of the God documentary and some of this electrical universe perspective and theories, Velikovsky was kind of way right, more than Carl Sagan, and it's been proved back after like 50-60 years. I'll put some link below of the documentary Thunderbolts of the God if I can, and please subscribe and like and comment, send me some message, and please buy the book and read more of Velikovsky and learn more about the ancestral past, because I think it's key to understand the world that we live nowadays, the concept of nature that we have, the way that we live in regards to nature, the way that we treat nature, and the way we treat ourselves as well, because self-loathing has to do a lot with hatred of nature. But anyway, let's leave it there, and I come back with more videos.